You've had a big week, right? There's this big, beautiful bill that's coming through Congress right now. Republicans have put it up, and you just got through a 27-and-a-half marathon markup session. Is that right? You're part of the House Energy and Commerce Committee.
Jurisdiction over health care and energy, so we had 27 straight hours with the Republicans.
How is that? I feel like I've done that in Pennsylvania before. I go to a lot of these rallies, and I can feel it.
Their plan backfired. They put the health care portion of the bill in the middle of the night because they didn't want Americans to see them cutting health care from 13 million patients. The problem is that means they had to talk about health care policy at 3 or 4 a.m., and no one's at their best. So I had one Texas Republican trying to explain why firing the scientist at the FDA, who's in charge of making sure your eye drops don't blind you, is not a win for government efficiency.
Yeah.
And that set the tone for their defense of a bill that I think of as the Brad Smith bill. Brad Smith's a billionaire, a donor to Trump, and was appointed to run healthcare for Doge, which is convenient for Brad Smith because his business sells healthcare services to Medicare and Medicaid. Now, Brad Smith, he loves this bill because he's a billionaire, so he's getting a tax cut. And he's running Medicare and Medicaid, so he gets to decide which Americans are deserving of health care or not, while he sells to the very agency that is regulating and reimbursing his own business. Brad Smith thinks this bill is terrific. I think Americans are going to think that tax cuts for billionaires should not be a prop for health care.
I mean, I think that seems to be the first swing. It seems to be the response people have to begin with, but there's like a lot of conversation about these Medicaid cuts, right? And first of all, we'll see where this bill lands. But the Republicans are pushing back. They're saying, why not? Why are we giving Medicaid to the topic they're saying, able-bodied, no dependents? What's wrong with making some concessions there? Is there a place in the middle you guys can find some common ground there? Why can't you give in to that request?
There actually are fraud and abuse elements of that bill that were bipartisan, that were put in last Congress. There were elements of that bill, for example, that took on health insurance corporations that were price gouging taxpayers and raising copays for prescription drugs. Now, Elon Musk tweeted about that bill in December, and it got pulled down by Speaker Johnson. They're trying to stuff it back in here. So, of course, there are elements that we can agree on. What we can agree on is making it more expensive to access at-home care if you're a senior citizen. Making it so that if you're a parent raising a kid with an intellectual disability, you now have to send your child to an institution rather than get at-home care from a personal care attendant. If you have insurance through your employer, you're now going to pay higher premiums. And for what? To avoid having to raise the top tax rate from 37% to 39% for the richest Americans?
Do you think there are ears on the other side that are willing to hear this? Are people? Josh Hawley has been pushing back against some of these cuts. These are affecting people in red and blue districts. That will play well perhaps in the Daily Show's audience here. But in red states, will that play?
We've been having this fight for 15 years. Democrats try to expand health care coverage. Republicans try to take it back. And repeatedly what we have seen, whether it's 2018, whether it's 2020, when Democrats campaign on expanding health care coverage, Democrats win.
Yeah. Talk to me about the TikTok ban. All right, you were a co-sponsor of the TikTok ban. It passed in both houses, signed into law by President Biden. And now Trump is refusing to enact it. Is this a constitutional crisis? Are we there?
He's definitely breaking the law, as he is on a number of other fronts.
Sure, yeah. He likes to do that.
We call that a weekday. I approach this bill, though, not as a member of Congress, but as a dad. You've got a son, yes?
I do.
I got 3 kids, 5, 3, and 2 years old. How much are you dreading that first smartphone?
Just the price alone, because I'm a very cheap father. But yeah, the idea of giving that into a child, it's like a loaded weapon.
It is. These social media corporations are attention fracking our kids. They're rewiring our kids' brains. They are turning our children into a product, and they need to pay for it. We have to ban smartphones in schools. We've got to tax their digital advertising revenue, $250 billion a year, and use it to fix what they have broken. And this TikTok divestment is the first step to taking back family time from screen time.
I like this idea. An attention tax is a fascinating idea. I guess I'm curious, specifically with the TikTok ban, this does feel like a moment where Donald Trump has been told to do something and is not doing it. There's an executive order. It's passed through Congress. You could make the argument this is a constitutional crisis. Is this the constitutional crisis? I don't know. But you are in Congress right now. The president is not willing to follow the laws of Congress and the previous presidents. What can you do? What should you do?
There's two paths here. One is the legal path. So a bunch of attorneys general across the states are going to be suing Apple and Android and the other platforms that host TikTok to say that they have to follow the law by not hosting TikTok, even if Donald Trump won't. The second, though, is power. We got to take back power in Congress because Republicans view themselves as a rubber stamp. They think they're courtiers to the court at Mar-a-Lago. Democrats need to win the midterms and reinstate the checks and balances that our democracy relies upon.
Yeah. What do you say, though? But what do you say to someone who's like, all right, this is a constitutional crisis. What do we need to do? I hope Apple sues somebody, and we'll wait a year and a half till we get some power. Like, okay, that sounds like a plan. But, I mean, shouldn't you impeach the president? Isn't there something you can do now and through a governmental process to stop a president from clearly putting us in this constitutional moment?
The Speaker of the House's nickname is MAGA Mike Johnson. They are never bringing articles of impeachment to the House floor. Mm-hmm. Democrats have to recognize that Americans know that we are against Donald Trump. We have made that crystal clear. If we're going to win back power, if we're going to govern from a place of trust with the American people, we have to show people what we are for, not just what we are against.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. What is that? There's this abundance agenda people are talking about. Ezra Klein, Derek Thompson were on the show talking about this as well. I know you've talked about this. What is this vision for a future Democratic Party that people can get behind?
It's about doing better than your parents. Mm-hmm. That's the core promise in the United States, is we want people to do well and we want their kids to do even better. Mm-hmm. Right now, what's holding back the next generation from doing better is the price of housing, the cost of energy, which is constricting the economy for the middle class, and excellence in education. Democrats have to have a bold agenda. We're going to get one-on-one tutoring to every student in America. The school closures during the pandemic, were a catastrophe. Mm-hmm. The school closures were a catastrophe, and candidly, Democrats own a lot of that. Mm-hmm. We can fix it, though. In my own district, the city of Fall River, biggest city in my district, voted for Donald Trump. I saw 400 first graders get one-on-one tutoring, 15 minutes a day, high quality, remote. They gained 6 months of reading and math instruction just from 15 minutes a day. One teacher called it, quote, a gift. Every American student should get that gift in this country. Mm-hmm. Yeah. We have to build 5 million homes in this country. Baby boomers, they bought a house for like $14 in the 1970s, and it's appreciated, and that's great. But the next generation can't even get their hand on the bottom rung of the ladder because they can't buy a house. Let's build 5 million homes in this country. Let's build 5 Hoover Dams worth of nuclear power, and let's unleash this economy for the middle class.
Where do you see that? Is there an example where you see that happening?
Yes.
Like where? What is the city that is building at a pace and in the way that you think Democrats could emulate?
Austin, Texas, changed its zoning and land use code in 2022. They built 50,000 apartments in 2 years. Rents went down by 20%.
And then Joe Rogan and Elon Musk moved it.
And now people are fleeing, right? And if people think that, hey, Democrats, you guys can't cut regulations, come on. In Cambridge, Massachusetts, city that 88% of voters went for Kamala Harris, Cambridge, Massachusetts just passed a zoning reform bill, 100 pages. 90 of those pages were just deleting old rules so that, to make it easier to build missing middle housing, the kind of housing that 20-somethings, 30-somethings can buy and get a start in life. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So you think we should look to Texas for some of these answers?
Texas has been building more homes than Newsom's California has.
Interesting. Now, when you look at the Democratic Party, are they focusing too much on messaging right now, or they need to be the party of ideas?
Party of ideas.
Yeah.
There's no shortage of ambition. There's no shortage of pollsters. What there is a shortage of is big, bold ideas that show Americans that we've got an agenda that makes kids do better than their parents.
Yeah. So you want me to do better than my parents?
I want your son to do better than you.
Okay, that's a nice way of putting it. To be fair, the ego in me, I'd be fine if my son did just as good as me. I think that would be perfect. Let's aim for that and see if we can find some consensus there. All right, Congressman Jake Auchincloss.